My beloved child. There is a reason you clicked on this message today. Not by accident. Not by coincidence. Because there is something hidden beneath the silence that you have been living with. Something nobody explained. Something nobody wanted you to see. And before we go any further, do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The moment communication stopped, you believed the story was over. You thought the distance meant acceptance. You thought the silence meant peace. But silence can hide more emotion than words ever could. While you were trying to move forward, trying to focus on your own life, trying to convince yourself that everything was finished, another story was unfolding behind the scenes. A story you could not see. A story nobody told you. Because the person connected to this message did not react the way everyone expected. They expected this woman to forget. They expected her to move on. They expected her to act as though nothing had happened. But that is not what occurred. The day communication stopped, something shifted inside her. At first, she tried to hide it. She acted strong. She acted unaffected. She convinced herself that she did not care. Yet every day that followed carried a reminder, a memory, a question, a feeling she could not completely silence. And that is where the secret begins. Because what they never told you is that some people do not realize the value of a connection until it becomes unavailable. When access disappears. Perspective changes. When conversation ends. Thoughts become louder. When silence arrives. Truth begins to speak. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The strange part is that she never expected the silence to last. She thought there would be another conversation, another opportunity, another chance to explain, another moment to reconnect. But the longer the silence continued, the more she began noticing things she had ignored before. Little moments, little memories, little details. Things that once seemed ordinary suddenly became impossible to forget. And every time she remembered them, another question appeared. Why did this happen? Why did things change? Why does this still matter? The answers did not come immediately. Instead, they arrived slowly, quietly, unexpectedly, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place one by one. Meanwhile, people around her believed everything was fine. They saw a smile. They heard normal conversations. They assumed life had returned to normal. But appearances rarely reveal the full story, because some emotions are carried in silence. Some realizations happen in private. And some truths are discovered only after distance creates space to see clearly. That is why this message found you today. Because there is a revelation connected to this silence. A revelation that changes everything. The more time passed, the more impossible it became to ignore. Certain memories refused to leave. Certain thoughts kept returning. Certain questions demanded answers. And eventually she reached a moment where she could no longer pretend those thoughts meant nothing. She had to face them. She had to acknowledge them. She had to admit that the silence affected her far more than she ever expected. Yet there is another piece nobody told you. A piece that makes this story even more surprising. Because sometimes people become frustrated not because they hate the silence, but because the silence forces them to confront feelings they were avoiding, feelings they never wanted to examine, feelings they never planned to admit. And when those feelings surface, they create a storm of questions. Questions about the past. Questions about missed opportunities. Questions about what could have been different. Questions about what still remains unfinished. My beloved child, you may not see everything happening behind the scenes. You may not know every thought crossing another person's mind. But understand this. Not every silence is empty. Not every distance means indifference. Not every ending is truly an ending. Some silences are chapters preparing the next revelation. And what happened after communication stopped may be far different from what anyone expected. Do not skip. Stay till the end of this journey, because what is coming next will reveal what began happening when nobody was watching. And the truth behind that silence is only starting to unfold. A strange realization began to grow. My beloved child, what happened next was something nobody expected. The silence did not make her forget. It made her notice. Notice the moments she once overlooked. Notice the conversations she once rushed through. Notice the presence she once assumed would always be there. And the more she noticed, the harder it became to ignore what was happening inside her heart. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because this is where the story changes. Most people think silence creates distance. But sometimes silence creates clarity. For the first time, she was forced to sit alone with her thoughts. No distractions. No explanations. No easy answers. Just questions. And one question appeared more than any other. Why am I still thinking about this? She tried to move past it. She tried to focus elsewhere. She tried to convince herself it no longer mattered. Yet every attempt brought her back to the same place. Back to the same memories. Back to the same unfinished feelings. Back to the same unanswered questions. And that is when something surprising happened. She began looking at the past differently. Moments that once seemed ordinary suddenly felt important. Words that once seemed small suddenly carried meaning. Things she barely noticed before now stood out clearly, almost as if the silence itself was revealing hidden truths. My beloved child, not every lesson arrives through conversation. Some lessons arrive through absence. Some revelations appear only after someone is no longer there. And this revelation was impossible to ignore. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because while everyone else believed the chapter had ended, another chapter was quietly beginning. A chapter nobody could see. A chapter unfolding behind closed doors. Every day brought another reminder. Every week brought another realization. Every memory seemed to connect to something larger. And slowly she started understanding something she never expected. The connection had left a deeper mark than she realized. That realization changed everything. Because once a truth is seen clearly, it cannot be unseen. Once a feeling is acknowledged, it cannot easily disappear. Once a memory gains meaning, it becomes impossible to treat it like nothing. And that is exactly where she found herself. Standing between what was and what could have been. Thinking about things she never thought she would revisit. Wondering about things she never expected to question. Searching for answers that seemed hidden just beyond reach. My beloved child. This is why appearances can be misleading. People may look calm on the outside, People may appear unaffected. People may seem completely fine. But inside, entire stories can be unfolding. Entire realizations can be taking place. Entire transformations can be happening without anyone knowing. And what she discovered next would become one of the biggest surprises of all. Because she finally understood that silence was not the end of the story. Silence was the beginning of understanding, the beginning of perspective, the beginning of seeing what had been hidden in plain sight. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because the next revelation is even deeper. A revelation connected to something she never said out loud, something she kept hidden, something she rarely admitted even to herself. And when that truth finally surfaced, it changed the way she saw everything that happened. The silence, the distance, the memories, the connection, all of it suddenly made sense. And what happened after that realization is the part nobody saw coming, the part that remained hidden, the part that changes this entire story. And that is exactly where our journey continues. The truth became impossible to ignore. My beloved child, there comes a moment when a person can no longer run from what they feel. A moment when every distraction loses its power. A moment when every excuse begins to fade. And for her, that moment finally arrived. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because what happened next was not what anyone expected. For a long time, she told herself that the silence meant nothing. She told herself that everything was fine. She told herself that the chapter was closed. But the more she repeated those words, the less convincing they became. Deep inside, another voice was speaking. A quieter voice. A more honest voice. A voice asking questions she could not answer. Why does this still matter? Why do these memories keep returning? Why does the silence feel louder than the conversations ever did? Those questions followed her everywhere. In quiet moments. In ordinary days. In unexpected situations. And every time she tried to push them away, they returned stronger than before. That is when she realized something remarkable. The silence had not erased the connection. It had revealed it. My beloved child. Sometimes people only understand the significance of something after it is no longer within reach. Sometimes distance creates awareness. Sometimes absence creates understanding. And that understanding was growing day by day. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because this next revelation changed everything. One day she stopped focusing on what happened. Instead, she started focusing on why it affected her so deeply. That question opened a door. A door she never expected to open. Suddenly she began seeing patterns. Moments that connected. Experiences that made sense. Details she had overlooked. And with every realization, one truth became clearer. This connection was never as ordinary as she once believed. There was meaning hidden beneath the surface. Meaning she could no longer deny. Meaning she could no longer ignore. And that realization created a shift. A powerful shift. Not outside. Inside. A shift in perspective. A shift in understanding. A shift in the way she viewed everything that happened. For the first time, she stopped blaming the silence. Instead, she started learning from it. For the first time, she stopped resisting the memories. Instead, she started listening to them. For the first time, she allowed herself to be honest. And honesty changed everything. Because honesty revealed what pride had hidden. Honesty revealed what distraction had covered. Honesty revealed what silence had been trying to teach all along. My beloved child. This is where the story becomes extraordinary. Because once she accepted the truth, new thoughts began appearing. Thoughts she never expected. Questions she never imagined asking. Possibilities she never imagined considering. The very thing she thought was over suddenly felt unfinished. The very thing she thought she understood suddenly felt mysterious again. And the deeper she looked, the more she realized there was still something left unresolved. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because there is one detail nobody told you. A detail hidden beneath everything else. While she was searching for answers, she discovered something surprising. The silence had changed her. Not in the way people assumed. Not in the way anyone could easily see. But in a way that quietly transformed how she viewed the future. And when a person changes internally, their entire perspective begins to change as well. That is exactly what happened. The old assumptions disappeared. The old certainties faded. The old conclusions no longer felt complete. And standing in their place was a question. One powerful question. A question that would lead to the next revelation. A revelation so unexpected that it would completely reshape the story you thought you knew. And that revelation is closer than you think. Much closer. The silence was never the final chapter. It was preparing the next one. And what comes next may explain everything. Then came the moment she could no longer ignore. My beloved child, every story reaches a turning point. A moment when everything that seemed confusing suddenly begins to make sense. A moment when hidden pieces start fitting together. And for her, that moment arrived quietly. Not with noise. Not with drama. But with a realization so powerful that it changed the way she saw everything. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because what she discovered next was the truth nobody had spoken aloud. For months, she had been asking questions, looking back, replaying memories, trying to understand why the silence affected her so deeply. Then one day, a simple realization appeared. The silence was not what bothered her. The possibility of never understanding the connection was what bothered her. That realization stopped her in her tracks. Because suddenly, everything looked different. The memories looked different. The conversations looked different. Even the distance looked different. For the first time, she was not focused on what was missing. She was focused on what had been meaningful. And that changed everything. My beloved child. People often believe they are upset because someone is gone. But sometimes they are upset because they finally recognize the value of what existed. And once that recognition appears, it cannot be unseen. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because the next revelation was even more surprising. The more she reflected, the more she realized that the connection had left an imprint on her life. Not a temporary one. Not a passing one. A lasting one. A meaningful one. And with every passing day, that realization grew stronger. The strange part? Nobody around her knew. Nobody could see the thoughts she carried. Nobody could hear the questions she asked herself. From the outside, everything looked normal. But internally, an entirely different story was unfolding. A story of understanding. A story of reflection. A story of discovering truths she never expected to find. And then something happened. She stopped looking at the past with frustration. She started looking at it with clarity. That was the turning point. Because clarity reveals things emotions often hide. Clarity revealed lessons. Clarity revealed meaning. Clarity revealed why this chapter had stayed in her mind for so long. My beloved child. This is where the story becomes unforgettable, because she finally understood something that changed her perspective forever. The silence had not erased the connection. The silence had highlighted it. The distance had not destroyed the significance. The distance had revealed it. And once she understood that, a new question appeared. A question she could not stop thinking about. What if this story still had something left to teach? What if there was more meaning than she originally realized? What if the chapter she thought was over still carried an unfinished lesson? Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because those questions opened a door leading toward the biggest revelation yet. A revelation connected not to the past, but to the future. And that future looked very different from what she once imagined. For the first time, she stopped assuming she knew the entire story. For the first time, she accepted that there might be pieces she had not yet discovered. For the first time, she became open to possibilities she once ignored. That openness changed everything. Because when a person becomes open to understanding, life begins revealing new perspectives, new insights, new realizations, new truths. And what she would discover next would become the most surprising part of all. A discovery that explains why this connection remained impossible to forget. A discovery that reveals what was happening beneath the surface all along. A discovery so unexpected that it changes the meaning of everything that came before. And that revelation is closer now than ever before. Closer than she realized. Closer than anyone realized. And in the next chapter, the hidden truth finally begins to reveal itself. A hidden truth was finally coming into focus. My beloved child, there are moments in life when the answers we have been searching for do not arrive all at once. They arrive piece by piece, clue by clue, realization by realization. And this was one of those moments. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because what she finally understood was far different from what she expected. For so long, she believed the silence was the story. But now she was beginning to see that the silence was only the doorway. The real story was what happened afterward. The thoughts that appeared. The lessons that emerged. The perspective that changed. The understanding that slowly grew stronger every single day. And once she noticed that, everything began to shift. The questions that once confused her started making sense. The memories that once seemed random started connecting. The emotions that once felt complicated started revealing their purpose. My beloved child. Sometimes life creates distance not to erase something important, but to reveal how important it truly was. That realization stopped her, because she suddenly understood something nobody had explained before. The connection had influenced her more than she ever admitted. not because of what happened, but because of what it taught her. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because this next revelation changed everything. One evening, while reflecting on everything that had happened, she noticed a pattern. Every lesson, every memory, every realization, they all pointed toward the same truth: growth. The silence had created growth. The distance had created awareness. The unanswered questions had created understanding. And understanding is powerful, because once you understand something deeply, you can never return to seeing it the same way again. That is exactly what happened. The story she once viewed through confusion was now viewed through clarity. The chapter she once viewed through frustration was now viewed through wisdom. And the more clarity arrived, the more one truth stood out. Nothing about this experience had been meaningless. Nothing. Every moment carried significance. Every lesson carried value. Every realization carried purpose. My beloved child. This is why some stories remain in our hearts longer than expected. Not because we are meant to stay stuck in them, but because they still have something important to teach us. And she was finally discovering what that lesson was. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because the next discovery was the most surprising one yet. As she continued reflecting, she realized something extraordinary. The person she had become was different from the person she had been before. Stronger, wiser, more aware, more thoughtful, more understanding. The experience had changed her, quietly, gradually, powerfully. And once she saw that transformation, she understood why the story remained important. It was never only about another person. It was also about her own journey, her own growth, her own awakening, her own understanding. That realization brought a sense of peace she had not felt before, because suddenly, the confusion started fading. The uncertainty started fading. The questions started fading, and in their place came something new: confidence. Confidence that every chapter had meaning. Confidence that every lesson mattered. Confidence that every experience carried value. My beloved child. What comes next is the biggest revelation of all. A revelation connected to why this story unfolded exactly the way it did. A revelation connected to what was happening beneath the surface the entire time. A revelation that ties together every question, every memory, and every lesson. And when that truth is finally revealed, the entire journey will make sense in a way nobody expected. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because the final pieces of the puzzle are beginning to appear, and the most powerful chapter is still ahead. The final revelation was closer than ever. My beloved child, if you have stayed until this moment, then you are about to hear the truth that connects every piece of this journey together. The silence, the distance, the memories, the questions, none of them appeared without reason, and what she finally discovered changed everything. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because this revelation is the one nobody expected. For a long time, she believed that losing communication was the most important part of the story. But eventually she realized something astonishing. The most important part was not the silence itself. The most important part was what the silence revealed. It revealed what truly mattered. It revealed what had genuine meaning. It revealed which memories continued to live on long after the conversation stopped. And those memories told a story she could no longer ignore. My beloved child. Some people spend years searching for clarity, yet clarity often arrives in the quietest moments, not through noise, not through pressure, but through reflection. And reflection had shown her something extraordinary. The connection had become a mirror showing her lessons she needed to learn, a mirror showing her growth, a mirror showing her how much she had changed. The more she understood that truth, the more everything made sense. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because here is the revelation that changed her perspective forever. The experience was never only about another person. It was also about becoming a stronger version of herself, a wiser version, a more aware version, a version capable of seeing meaning where she once saw confusion. And when she understood that, the story transformed. What once felt like an ending now felt like a lesson. What once felt uncertain now felt meaningful. What once felt unresolved now felt complete. That is the hidden truth nobody told you. The silence was never as simple as it appeared. It carried lessons. It carried perspective. It carried growth. And growth changes everything. My beloved child. There is another reason this message found you today. Because many people focus only on what they lose. Very few focus on what they gain. Yet she eventually realized that the greatest gift hidden inside the experience was understanding. Understanding herself. Understanding what mattered. Understanding the value of meaningful connections. Understanding the importance of appreciating moments while they exist. And those lessons became priceless. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because the final piece of this story is the most powerful one. Every chapter of life teaches something. Some chapters teach patience. Some teach gratitude. Some teach perspective, and some teach us how strong we truly are. This chapter taught all of those things. That is why it remained unforgettable. That is why the memories remained vivid. That is why the lessons remained valuable. Not because the story was unfinished, but because the story was important. And once she accepted that truth, a sense of peace appeared. A peace built on understanding. A peace built on growth. A peace built on clarity. The questions became quieter. The confusion faded. The meaning became clear. My beloved child. If there is one lesson to carry forward from this journey, it is this. Sometimes the greatest revelations arrive after the loud moments have ended. Sometimes the most valuable lessons are discovered in silence. And sometimes the experiences we understand last become the experiences that teach us the most. Do not skip the lessons life places before you. Do not overlook the growth hidden inside difficult chapters. Do not underestimate the power of reflection, because understanding changes everything. And now the hidden truth has been revealed. The silence was never empty. It was teaching. It was shaping. It was preparing. And the person who emerges from that understanding is stronger, wiser, and more prepared for every chapter still to come. Something huge was waiting for you. And that huge revelation was this. The greatest transformation was happening within all along.